Hey guys, Watomar Melon back again on my Watomar Melon channel. You guys who don't know, this channel is going to be terminated. You should absolutely subscribe to my new channel, even though I'm posting random stuff on this channel. It's going to be terminated by YouTube at some point in time. And so subscribe to the channel, The Watomar Melon. It'll be pinned comment in the comment section and in the description. Maybe also in the title. I don't know. But I just wanted to use today's video to talk a bit about the current state of Yu-Gi-Oh! There's been a lot of discussion. I know MBT Yu-Gi-Oh! Made a video, House of Champs made a video, and I wanted to make a video just as a response to all of the discussion because I'm coming at this from a collector's point of view. I think players certainly, they're the lifeblood of the game, and they have a lot to say about it, but from a collector's point of view, I think most people who are established within Yu-Gi-Oh! Recognize the necessity of collectors and investors for that purpose, regardless. Um, I'm not an investor. I view myself as strictly a collector. I got into collecting back in the very beginning of COVID, and I think Yu-Gi-Oh! I was lucky. Yu-Gi-Oh! Really had a down period between Dimension of Chaos and Rising Rampage, where they took Ghost Rares and Ultimate Rares out of core sets, and that they didn't introduce Starlight Rares until I think Rising Rampage, or whatever the set with Apollosa is. And it really hurt the game from a collector's point of view. I think Starlight Rares did a lot and made it so that people like myself who don't play the game still have things to actually pursue as sort of interesting things to put in binders, like these cards, right? Collector rares are something that have been a bit divisive. They're really, people like them a lot when they were introduced in Toon Chaos. I have a couple of Toon Chaos collector rares here. So we've got Chaos Creator. I never wanted to pay the money when collector rares first came out for Chaos Creator, but man, it looks beautiful. And now it's actually much more affordable. So I like that a lot. But basically, collector rares, Starlight rares, made people want to actually just collect stuff. For a long time, it was only really you could collect vintage. The modern stuff really wasn't all that interesting. Now I feel that there's a good mix of modern stuff for you to collect. It keeps it more dynamic as a hobby, and there's more stuff to actually think about. And so I like that a lot. And that's why I collect modern. Although, even though my collection's monetary value is certainly weighted towards the vintage, I think that modern stuff makes it exciting for me. And I think that collectors and investors add something to the pot and make it so that players get something out of their existence, right? A card like, let's look at Queen's Knight. This is not something that this strategy out of King's Court was ever viable as a competitive strategy. In this specific card, King's Court had this as a rare. It's like a 5-cent card. You can play Queen's Knight very easily. The only reason you would want a collector rare is because you want to bling out, you want to put it in your binder, etc. It's really collectors and investors who are putting their money into cards like this. And that actually helps players because it drives down the prices of other cards in the set. Because most, or a lot of the time, the people who are opening up product are these big stores who have to pay employees, they have to pay overhead, and they have to turn a profit or else they will no longer open this stuff up. It's strictly business. They can't take a loss. They have to make money or else they go out of business. And people like myself who are buying cards like these collector rares are driving down the price of other playable cards because stores don't have to make the same margin on those cards because they're making margins on cards like this that otherwise, if it was just up to people who care about the meta, this card would be, a $2 card. It wouldn't be $15, $20 or whatever it is right now. And so it helps drive down prices of stuff for players. And so I think a lot of the concern comes with the introduction of Rarity Collection and Rarity Collection 2. The problem with these sets is these are incredible sets. It's funny to say that, but they're a little too incredible. It means that collectors are very and certainly investors. Investors are getting burned by rarity collection. All of their Starlight rares, their collector rares, have plummeted in price. That got reprinted because there's the Prismatic Collector rare, which is nearly identical to the collector rare, and the Quarter Century Secret rare is essentially identical to the Starlight rare. And so cards like this, Rescue Rabbit, when this first came out, it was like a $40 card, then it was like a $20 card, and then it got printed as a Prismatic Collector rare, Quarter Century Secret rare. I don't know what this is. I imagine it's probably $5 or so. I really like the card. It is what it is. But the important part is that certainly investors are not going to put money into collector rares because they know that long term there's some horizon where they're going to be printed in a nearly identical rarity, or they could, and they'll lose all of their value. That means that investors, you fool them a couple of times with some interesting Starlight rares and collector rares. If they get burned enough, they're just going to exit the market, or they're going to move towards speculating on cards that are playable, which means that is going to drive up the price of those playable cards even more. Now, for collectors like myself, I get burned. I wasn't planning on selling this card. It is what it is. But someone like myself, even a collector, I don't want to spend more money than I have to, right? And so if I recognize a card has a potential to be reprinted in a nearly identical rarity and therefore plummet in value, I will never buy that card until it gets that reprint. I can wait an indefinite amount of time. The difficulty is it makes the modern collecting much less dynamic because I'm constantly waiting for cards to get rarity collection reprints. And so I won't buy anything basically until it gets that reprint. And it means that a lot of cards that don't get that reprint, I don't end up buying because I'm waiting for them to get that next printing. Or waiting for the potential to them to get that next printing. And so it makes it less fun for me, and also I'm just one less buyer, and so cards like that are collectible are just not going to have the same buyer pool anymore. And so it will drive up the price of these meta-relevant cards because card shops now need to make their money on something else. And so, you look at cards like, let's say, Honest. This is a collector's card or, an Edison card. But it's always a little bit concerning to buy stuff like this because I spent, I think, $25 on it. If it's $3, 3 months from now, that, even though I'm not trying to resell it, it feels bad, right? If I lose 85-90% of the value on the card, I'm not going to put my money in a similar card in the future. And so that is, I think, the big concern from the collector's point of view, is that these sets like Rarity Collection take something away from collecting modern stuff. It means that I'm afraid to put my money into it because I know that I could get a better deal down the road. And so that is what I would say, my biggest concern. And so I have more cards that have gotten these sorts of reprints. This is one that I bought after it got its Prismatic Collector Rare reprint. I bought the original one. And so one other thing that happens is that players who want certain cards, they buy their cards. And basically, before, people like myself, I would never buy stuff on release, right? I would buy it after players have sort of bought the cards that they need in order to play the strategy, and then once those players have moved on from that deck, I will buy the card and provide some sort of cushion for these players. They get they recoup a lot of their money, and it allows them to, even though the deck might be $800, they don't lose $800 from buying that deck. Because collectors like myself are providing some additional demand for these cards. Konami decided, no, we want collectors to buy the newest set. We want people who don't have those cards to buy the newest set. They've basically reached their hand into the pool of money on the secondary market and said, we don't want that going to the people who had bought the original printings. We want it going to us. And so that essentially takes away a lot of the money or some of the money that people who are buying these expensive cards for their decks and then wanted to sort of phase them out to get the newest stuff when collectors like myself who are buying these once meta relevant cards, basically they're just reprinted before they can sort of come out of favor within the meta, and it drives down the price. The people who bought those original printings get much less money back, and it makes it harder for them to buy the newest strategy, and so it makes it more expensive. Here we have a Solemn Strike. I bought this playset right before Rarity Collection 2 was announced, and this got a reprint in Rarity Collection 2. I got a crazy good deal on these. It was like, I think $18 a piece, something like that. Now they're $5. And, you know, I like these cards a lot. I'm happy I have them. They look really awesome, but it still doesn't feel great to have it reprinted. And a classic example of a card that has not yet received a Rarity Collection printing, but had I known about Rarity Collection, I would not have bought this card, is Torrential Tribute. And so a card like this, that even though it doesn't get these printings, I'm so afraid of buying it and just wasting money on something that I could buy for much less later, I wouldn't have bought the card in the first place. And so that's a problem. Starlight Rares. I always was afraid of buying Starlight Rares. I thought they were overvalued for other reasons. And so, as you can see, it's only a couple of cards that I've really been burned on. And, relative to my overall collection purchases, it's not a whole lot. So I'm not coming at this from someone who is investing huge amounts of money into these things or buying huge amounts of these cards for my collection. I really didn't get burned at all, except I see from a collector's point of view, and I'm not an investor, but certainly from an investor's point of view, that this really takes away from something as a collector. And so my opinion on what Rarity Collection should have been is it should have been Prismatic Ultimate Rares and the Platinum Secret Rare, especially the Platinum Secret Rare from Rarity Collection 2. I think these are new rarities. People would have enjoyed them as chase pulls, and it wouldn't have sort of really caused collectors and investors to be freaked out about the status of current cards. And you can see this is a Prismatic Ultimate Rare Lone Fire Blossom. This card looks insane. This absolutely could have been a chase card instead of a quarter century secret rare, and yet they chose to print this and make this a $1 card. I'm all for Rarity Collection reprinting and super ultra secret rare, making cards accessible for very cheap, but they didn't need to destroy the value of everything else in order to make these cards accessible and to make profits. I think if this was a chase rarity, people still would have gone after it. It looks insane. It looks awesome, right? Like the texture is insane on this card. But they chose, to double dip, basically. And it's a little unfortunate that they did. Here I've got more quarter century secret rares. We've got Magicians of Bonds and Unity at the top. I still need 2 more of them. Here's a card. I bought the quarter century secret rare, not the Starlight Rare, Iris Swordsoul. This is a card that had a Starlight Rare that was, decent in value, but for some reason they printed it as quarter century secret. This, I don't understand. It's not like Konami's making a lot of money off of Iris Swordsoul. It just seems like such a ridiculous card to print in quarter century secret rare. And so for me, it I don't know, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to do that. I don't know what Konami's really going after with these. And there are good decisions in these quarter century secret rares. Do things like this. Do alternate artworks. Those are perfect candidates for chase cards. People like them. The artworks are often very cool, sometimes even better than the original artwork, and people will go after them. You don't need to reprint nearly identical cards, killing the value of things and pushing investors and to a lesser extent collectors away from modern product. So that's the main takeaway. This was kind of a long-winded rant video, a little different from my usual style because I didn't go over as many cards, but let me know what you guys think. I just wanted to make this video. I've talked about this a bit, but I wanted to sort of fledge out my opinions in a dedicated video. So it's been your boy Watomar Melon. If you made it this far, you absolutely should subscribe to my new channel. But I'll see you guys later. Peace out.